It was very lovely to sit in meditation with everyone. I didn't want to stop, actually. And it's such an important part of life to be able to meditate. I remember when I first learned to meditate, I'd waited a long time to learn, and then I finally started learning, and once I sort of a little bit got the hang of it, I just wondered, how do we survive without this? It's so essential. Because without meditation, we're just following the ongoing stories and fears and drivenness and whatever might be going on in the mind. And it has it has no stopping points, apart from maybe when we sleep, and even then we might be dreaming, might be influencing our dreams too, that whatever was going on in the daytime. So this beautiful and simple practice of stopping and stilling and attending, being clear about what's going on, where we're not engaging in anything outside of ourselves, anything much, and still things are happening. There's still sounds. Maybe we like them or we don't like them. The sound of a bird, and then the sound of a saw or something, electric saw. It's like maybe there's liking one, not liking the other. But it's just a sound, and we don't have to get involved in it. It's just to know it. And all the complications of being a human being. It's kind of a complicated process, isn't it? And maybe you imagine that for us, as monastics, it gets really simple. I think it does at a certain point, but we're still working on that. So, yeah, to be a human being in the world is complex and messy and impactful. We're impacted by each other, and then we take that time to sit and bring our attention inward and see what is the resonance of the heart and mind at the moment, at any moment, So when we stop, we might be left with a certain resonance. It could be anything. It could be really beautiful. It could be inspired. It could be troubled. It could be afraid. It could be anything. But we stop, and then we bring our attention here to the heart mind, and then we attend to it. And chanting those four qualities: loving kindness, compassion, appreciative joy, and equanimity. So we need to practice with those qualities as a direct heart practice in our meditation, in order to know how they are, what they feel like, and then what's the appropriate quality to bring to this moment. So sometimes it might be compassion for a driven mind, or compassion for a disappointed heart, or it might be loving kindness. Might be metta, brings us a sense of energy and interconnectedness and a certain beauty. So just getting to know what's appropriate to bring to what we find here. And then in doing that, there can be a settling, making peace inside. And then we have that time to just be here with this, in this quiet moment. And so even though we're all together in a room, we're in some ways in our meditation, we're just right here with this, in our own little space here, taking care of taking care of presence. So I found during that sit, it was very, very beautiful and peaceful. And it was supported by our being together, that we all agreed to come together and sit in silence. So it supports a stilling and a deepening. And in that, there can be a letting go of all of the complications of the world, at least for a little while. And that's such an important and such a nourishing and peaceful and important, I don't know, maybe I don't need to say all those things, but it's such an important part of life, the stopping and stilling. So engagement in life is also important. We're here. And I think most of us are good at that, you know. But it's the stopping and stilling that we need to strengthen. And it might be that when you sit in meditation, it doesn't feel like that. That you sit and it's all still a bit of a struggle and grappling with things, and maybe get a tiny little glimpse of peacefulness. But that tiny little glimpse is already good. You know, this practice of meditation that the Buddha praised very highly is a really important part of life. And the world is endlessly creative. You know, it'll keep coming up with new things to interest us, to get upset about, to get caught up in or involved in or try and get away from or whatever. It's endless. And then there's this place of refuge where we stop and let everything settle. And there's just this. So it's easier to access with our eyes closed and bringing our attention inward and settling with the breath. It's easier to find it. But as we strengthen that access in our stillness meditation, then you can also find it. We can also find it in daily life. It's harder to find. And especially if we get caught up in what's going on around us. But it is always an opportunity, it's always a possibility to come back into presence. And the main thing that stops us from being present is liking and not liking, wanting and not wanting. So when we're doing something we like, it's really easy to just be present with that. Much easier. Although we can also zone out a little bit also, sometimes, with the pleasant. And then when we're having to engage in something we don't like, the mind will just do anything it can to get away from that uncomfortable, unpleasant experience. So the Buddha is inviting us to come into presence, to be here now with this as it is, and to attend with wisdom to what we find here, and not to always try to sort it all out on the external, because it's endless. We can do so much, we can do a certain amount of getting things orderly and clear enough and comfortable enough. And then it's good to know when to stop that, because it can be endless, trying to find perfection in the world. So compassion for our own states of suffering that arise, and compassion for others. Recognizing when there's a clinging to something, and then a position that's taken, and then might be a fighting stance, or a fear and protection, or a poor me, or all sorts of other things that can come up. So recognizing when those things happen for ourselves and for others, and having compassion for that, and also clarity and wisdom, and not just following those tendencies to hold on tightly. So the Buddha is very clear that the way to find freedom is to turn towards and befriend and get to know and understand the causes of dukkha. So get to know and understand dukkha itself, the suffering that we experience, and to understand where it comes from. And he's not pointing outside, he's pointing inside, he's pointing this way. And then letting go of the cause of dukkha. And cultivating the Noble Eightfold Path. Right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right collectedness or concentration. So this eightfold path that, when it's cultivated, when it's fully developed, brings us to a state of complete peace. And in the meantime, we're working on it. We're working on we recognize the places that are already quite strong, quite accessible, and we recognize the places that really need a bit of work. So right view is the understanding of that process of the Four Noble Truths. It sort of begins there, and that can be deepened. That understanding can be deepened and refined and developed, and it's as we do that, there's an increased freedom and letting go. There's an increased sense of well-being, and it's not that the world stops being the world. It's not that everything starts to be nice. And there was actually a student of Thich Nhat Hanh who I met, or this was in the same vicinity as, at an interfaith gathering recently in Port Townsend, and he used this phrase: "It's not a just world, it's just a world." I found that really helpful. It's not a just world, it's just a world. And worlds are like this, they're unsatisfactory, they're complicated, there's lots of entanglements, there's lots of beauty, lots of generosity and goodness, and also the opposites of that. And that's how a world is. So recognizing that truth, and then how can we meet this in a way that's really helping to arouse wholesome states in our own heart, and also to bring those into the world through speech or through action. So taking care of our heart is very, very important. It drives us. Actually, what's going on in the heart, a lot of the time we're driven by the moods and the feelings here, often unconsciously. So to get to know, really to really attend to and pay attention to and take care of this heart here. And it's partly a training. It's partly a training to not just follow the whims of the heart, and to bring courage. I think courage is a really important quality on this path. but also a sensitivity and a listening to what is needed. And I found that, through my meditation practice, I noticed that my heart, there can be a lot of trembling, there can be a lot of sensitivity and all sorts of stuff, actually. Also excitement and anger, all kinds of things can be going on in the heart. And before meditation practice, I wasn't able to see that, and so that it would already be out. It would already be, out my mouth or in the room before I knew it was here. And so through the meditation practice, you get to see it before it has to get that far, and then you have to attend to it, care for what's there, so it doesn't just splurge out, and also so it doesn't become rigid and solid. And the Buddha talks about one of the descriptions of an awakened being is that they have the unshakable deliverance of the heart. The heart is no longer trembling; it's no longer shaken by things. It's stable, it's steady. So this is a beautiful potential when we've let go of craving and clinging and attachment to views, all those things and more. Then the heart is peaceful, stable, bright, knowing. So we can know that that's the potential, and then we can know how it is. And then we take care of how it is. We don't judge it, criticize it, feel despondent, despairing. All of those things, they're not going in the right direction. But we see and recognize and attend and gradually do this work of transformation. And then we might find in moments that we have that clarity and peacefulness and brightness of heart. And those moments are precious. I think we can sometimes overlook them because we think they're not long enough, or they're not real enough, or all the other things are too more ordinary, more who I am. But none of it's who we are, actually. None of it's actually who we are. It's this potential for awakening is here in each of us. It's like a seed of awakening is in everyone's heart. We have to nurture that seed and take care of it. And meditation you could say meditation is a bit like the sun, bringing warmth and clarity and light to that seed. And ethical conduct is like the soil. So without the soil, the seed isn't going to grow. So it needs the soil of the foundation of ethical conduct, and then the light of our meditation practice of stopping and stilling, paying careful attention. And then gradually the seed of awakening grows to perhaps a great Bodhi tree that we can rest under. So I offer that today.